You're watching RTV News with me, Jane Mutoni. Prime Minister Dr. Edouard Ngirente has presided over the dedication ceremony of the new Ellen DeGeneres campus of the Dian Fossey Gorilla Fund at Kinigi in Musanze district. The government of Rwanda is about to launch a project of over 300 billion, which will reduce the interest rate on agricultural loans from 24% to below 10%. Welcome to the news in details. Now, Prime Minister Dr. Edouard Ngirente has presided over the dedication ceremony of the new Ellen DeGeneres campus of the Dian Fossey Gorilla Fund at Kinigi in Musanze district. Now, the Prime Minister officiated the event on behalf of President Paul Kagame.
The campus and its state-of-the-art facilities was built to blend in beautifully with its surroundings, using the very materials that compose the volcanoes that tower over it, and now exists as a result of an inspiration that reaches back in time to the love and efforts of Dian Fossey.
She was my hero, and the Dian Fossey Gorilla Fund has been here for over 50 years, through all the good, through all the many challenges. So really, Dian Fossey Gorilla Fund, thank you so much for doing what you've been doing for over 50 years. And the Rwandan government and all the conservation groups that are here today. I mean, this campus is important for gorillas, but it's really important for the people of Rwanda to continue this work. It is so important for these young students to come here and see this, that we have more room for everybody to experience this.
With the benefits such facilities are now providing, tourism authorities here in Rwanda are looking to double the revenue the sector brings in, and with it, the benefits derived especially by local communities living around the country's national parks. The effort has also been commended by Rwanda's leaders.
Today's ceremony is also a new chapter that opens the doors for several partners and stakeholders to join hands in the conservation of mountain gorillas. That is why today is such an important milestone in the conservation of these animals. Conservation is the foundation for Rwanda's tourism strategy. This is why conservation of mountain gorillas remain at the heart of our priorities. Our distinguished guests, through the work of this campus, we will see growth in research about the gorillas and their habitat. We will see an expansion of our knowledge of their intricate social structures and relationships. We'll be better equipped to plan for their future and ours.
The Ellen DeGeneres campus of the Dian Fossey Gorilla Fund opened its doors to visitors in February this year, and so far, up to 5,000 have been there. Its construction began in January 2019 and it cost $13.4 million to complete.
The government of Rwanda is about to launch a project of over 300 billion, which will reduce the interest rate on agricultural loans from 24% to below 10%. This was stated by the Minister of Finance and Economic Planning, Dr. Uzien Ndagijimana, during a consultative meeting organized by the Senate, which focused on the strategy of facilitating financial services. Relevant economic sectors have discussed with the Senate on the issue of facilitating financial services. The senators of the Economic Development and Finance Committee, who organized the meeting, generally commended the progress made in financial services, with 93% of elderlies having access to financial services. Some of the issues raised by the senators are that interest rates on loans are still at high rates of up to 21%, adding that financial institutions do not monitor lenders and that the confidence of the public in financial institutions is significantly reduced, with up to 61% having no confidence in financial institutions.
Usanga ahanini umukiriya usaba inguzanyo aherukana na banki mu gufata inguzanyo.
You find that in most cases, when a person gets a loan from the bank doesn't follow up with that person in terms of guiding them on how to use it, and instead the bank only focuses on its interests by auctioning off their collateral property and devalue it, because their only priority is to get back their money without considering what will happen to the person who took the loan. Figures provided by the National Bank of Rwanda show that commercial banks account for 60% of the total assets of financial institutions and SACCOs set up to reach and facilitate the population at the rate of 5%, which also has a high loan interest rate. The governor of the National Bank of Rwanda, John Rwangombwa, says it is difficult to reduce interest rates on loans due to the high cost of currency to banks and also due to the fact that the culture of saving is still low in the community. Another issue that was pointed out is that of all the loans provided by financial institutions, the rate of those given to farmers does not exceed 5%, and yet they make up 70% of the population. This is said to be due to the fact that banks do not trust agricultural projects to be successful due to the challenges involved in this sector, and that the fact that this sector does not always get collateral for sale when the farmer is unable to repay the loan. However, the Minister of Finance and Economic Planning, Dr. Uziel Ndagijimana, has promised that the $300 million project, equivalent to 300 billion Rwandan francs, will leave those in the agriculture sector able to access affordable loans as they will be supported by the government.
There are loans that will be given at such a low rate that smallholder farmers can get it for less than 10%. And as of big projects, we shall get 60% of that fund, and given loans with 40% bank's interest, but generally a low interest rate, which will help in boosting agricultural investment. The project aims to promote agriculture and other agriculture-related activities, including productivity and getting produce to the market.
One of the resolutions of the symposium was to unite the Senate and its stakeholders in the economy and financial services with a focus on improving the financial services sector for the betterment of the people and confidence in the financial sector. Rwanda has assured the delegates attending the ITU's World Telecommunication Development Conference that by 2030, up to 2.8 million families in country's most vulnerable communities will have smartphones. Officials attending the conference have, however, warned against people thinking that technology can somehow replace the fulfillment that comes from human contact and healthy relationships, because it does not.
Dignitaries present on day 2 of proceedings, like the Prime Minister of Luxembourg, observed that the COVID-19 pandemic provided many lessons to the world on the proper use of technology.
Imagine COVID without digital. Imagine. I was able to have my meetings through all these platforms, and I don't want to quote one because then I will forget at least two. But so this was possible to work, to do what we call also home working. We had the possibility to do education, to educate people also during COVID crisis. And we have to be careful that connectivity is not something just for the happy few living in capitals or in cities, or for young people. And never forget, even if we are very well connected, this should never replace human relations too. I'm sorry to insist on that, but I've been very often. The last time this was a nightmare.
The youth present also made a request of their own.
What we kindly ask of you is to become an ally of the youth in the effort to bridge the digital divide. Please consider the needs of the young people into the resolutions that you support during this conference and the pledges you present to Partner to Connect. The time is now and the place is here.
Participating nations made known their technological goals moving forward, and Rwanda was no exception.
For Rwanda, we'll increase the digital access and inclusion through investments in digital access enablers, focusing on underserved areas and groups. This includes support for smart device affordability, financing schemes, as well as the local connectivity access schemes targeting unconnected governments, offices, schools, hospitals, and public areas. We'll also work to help and support the vulnerable households to ensure that each household in the country owns at least a smartphone. There are at least 2.8 million households that need to be equipped with smartphones by 2030. But also, as we think about smart devices, heeding the call of the youth representative, we're also committing to connect all schools to ensure that all the students in schools have access to information, have access to devices that will allow them to engage in the hybrid mode of learning that we are seeing ourselves venture into today.
The World Telecommunication Development Conference is taking place in Kigali following the Generation Connect Global Youth Summit that was concluded last week in the city, the first time either have been held on African soil.
Taxi motorcyclists in Rwanda say they are prepared to provide good services, with the country now less than 2 weeks away from hosting the Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting. Shislene Mugwaneza has this report.
Chogam is now literally around the corner for Kigali's many taxi motorcyclists, and they say they are up to the challenges the major event will present.
I will welcome any foreigner I meet, saying to them, "You are welcome." I will ask them where they want to go and tell them that we will be using this machine. I will be greeting them, welcoming them, and after they tell me their destinations, I will be taking them. Most of them will obviously be speaking English, and in the event that there are some that do not speak the language, then French or even Kiswahili can be used as alternatives. Regardless, we will do our best to communicate with them and show them how welcoming this country is.
In order to be well prepared for Chogam, the motorcyclists were given new uniforms and got advices from their officials. The motorcyclists are ready to provide good services.
We are ready, and we have new uniforms. Airtel is still providing the uniforms to those who did not get them in the past days. We have washed them on our motorcycles, and we are encouraging those that haven't washed theirs too to do it. The first thing is to show them that we have a beautiful country. They also mentioned that we have a clean and secured country, so we shall keep on showing them the beauty of the country.
To protect the environment, Rwanda electric motor officials have noted that the electric motorcycles are also available to provide services while breathing fresh air.
We are ready. There are 250 motorcyclists with electric motorcycles that do not have sound as well as not polluting the air, and Rwandans are already used to them, so we are ready to show them to delegates from different countries that will attend the meeting.
The head of Motorcycle Transport Department at Rula, Jean-Pierre Mubirigi, has said that the motorcyclists are fully equipped with needed documents to deliver good services. However, there are things to be taken seriously during the meeting.
The first thing is the good looking of motorcyclists. We worked together with our partner Airtel Rwanda and Rwanda National Police. New uniforms are being given to motorcyclists to look better. We urged them to practice hygiene. Another thing, having discipline, as we always tell them to. It does not mean that they don't have it, but they should do better. We urge every motorcyclist to use a meter while driving, and I trust they will hear this message. Try and use that meter.
Currently, there are 23,000 motorcyclists in Kigali city. Rwanda will host over 6,000 delegates from the 54 member countries of the Commonwealth for the upcoming Commonwealth Head of Government meeting. Shislene Mugwaneza, RTV News.
Thirty investigators have completed a 3-month sign language course which will equip RIB with the ability to receive people with disabilities, especially those who are speech or hearing impaired. Precious Kirezi has this report.
One of the challenges faced by those who are hearing or speech impaired is the communication barrier between them and those they're seeking services from. Investigators who participated in the sign language course say they find it helpful because it enables them to provide services without the involvement of a third party.
Bizadufasha kuko mbere y'aya mahugurwa.
Before we were introduced to sign language, the communication barrier made it challenging to service the deaf community without the presence of an interpreter, as opposed to now, when we are in position to communicate and service them accordingly.
The head of the Women's Association for the Deaf and Dumb said they're content with the fact that the deaf and speech impaired can now obtain the services they need from RIB without much difficulty.
This is a very important activity to make sure that the RIB investigators are very much equipped with sign language communication skills, to see that they are confident in interacting with deaf people. Because if, for example, are going to be meeting deaf people, they should not be scared. They should be confident enough and receive them and talk to them. By them knowing how they can communicate with them, then it will help them to investigate further in the cases of violation of their rights.
The RIB spokesperson maintains the view that because Rwandan law is meant to protect everyone, it's only right that whoever seeks their services is catered for, which is what prompted the sign language course taken by investigators. The sign language courses were funded by the American Embassy in Rwanda with the aim to be more inclusive, especially with the deaf community.
It's really important for the deaf community to be inclusive, and so we hope that this training will go a long way into promoting the inclusivity of the interactions between investigators and the deaf community.
The first 30 investigators have already been trained, and RIB intends to train more as time passes. Precious Chidezi, RTV News.
The Bank of Kigali has signed an agreement with MTN Rwanda for the provision of smartphones with the facilitation of long-term loans. The move will help the country make faster progress towards its digital objectives. Take a look.
The agreement will enable Bank of Kigali and MTN Rwanda clients to get smartphones that they will be able to pay back over a period ranging from 1 to 2 years.
I believe a groundbreaking agreement that will enable many Rwandans to access smartphones. We know that without a smartphone, people are excluded from many services, financial, healthcare, even access to information. We are all journalists here. Many people get access to information through a smartphone. So I believe this will enable many people to get smartphones, and they'll have a very flexible repayment. They'll be able to pay weekly, daily, depending on what they desire, and they'll also be paying using mobile money, Momo, where many of them keep their money, and we hope that this will enable more people to have access to smartphones. I think we have details on the value of these smartphones. It will depend again on the capacity of the people, but a normal smartphone goes from maybe $100, 100,000, maybe to 200,000 for very good smartphones. So we will be able to get to give access to these smartphones with a repayment plan, again depending on the capacity of the person and depending on the quality of the telephone. Now, we believe that the first constraint for people to get access to internet and other digital services is to have that initial amount to buy a phone. And now we are spreading these payments over a period of 12 months or 24 months, and we believe this will, help a great deal. People have access to this smartphone.
The development has been welcomed by people who want such phones but have been unable to pay for them upfront, and MTN's executives told us that the process of getting the phones for their clients will not be difficult.
As you're getting a loan, there has to be some level of history that we know about you. And for that reason, customers of MTN, we typically have seen the consumption patterns, whether it's on voice calls, on data, on mobile money transactions. And through that, we'll be able to classify which customers belong to which segment and therefore provide certain levels of loans that allow them access to certain devices. So you have to be an MTN customer, otherwise we don't know your usage patterns, and therefore based on that, we'll be able to qualify you for the credit.
Which means someone who is a recent client cannot have
I think with time, initially, of course, we are basing the credit scoring on at least 3 months worth of data. But of course, 3 months, number one, is a very short period of time. And number two, with time, we'll be able to evolve what we're going to see in this initial launch to maybe even shorter periods of time. But initially, you'd have to be a customer of MTN for at least 3 months.
As of the end of last year, more than 10 million Rwandans had mobile.
Well, there you have it. On behalf of the entire news production team, thank you so much for your company. I'm Jane Mutoni. Bye for now.